welcome to Real Clear Fetish Talks Real Clear Play, an Instagram live / podcast / YouTube video where we talk about kink and sober life. Yeah, that's kind of what it's about. And today, in season 5, we now have our first guest because last week I did a Q&A. So this week I have a guest, and I am back on my Instagram account after it being blocked yet again. But I am back, and I'll get my guest in. Hello.
Hello, hello.
How are we?
Doing well, thank you very much. Yes, good to be here. Really good to be here.
Fantastic. Welcome to the live. And yeah, a lot of people just dropping in. Well, we'll jump right into it. I start with 4 standard questions, and then we'll see where the conversation goes.
Awesome.
What do you prefer I call you? Names, pronouns, and title?
My name's Chris. I'm he, him. That's pretty much me.
No titles.
I don't do titles.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, I was going to say 44, 45 now. I've been sober for just over 4 years. I work in tech, and I've been, I think, as I said in the sort of description, I describe myself a bit like spam, reformed pig. I think is probably the best way of describing me now.
Yeah, I did chuckle a little bit when you sent the description to me. It's like reformed spam. That is a really, there should be made T-shirts with that on it. Yeah,
you can have that one. Yeah,
definitely.
It is very much like that. I think now that life now is, I think, very, I'd say different. I'll say normal, very normal compared to how my life used to be, especially in my using days, and sobriety has shown me a very I'd say a different way to live. But yeah, it's certainly for me a very fulfilling way that is something that's my eyes have really been opened up to.
Fantastic. Completely sober, clear-headed, or social drinker?
Completely sober. Not had any drugs or anything for 4 and a bit years now.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And what is clear play to you, and why is it important?
Clear play to me is, I think, about connection. I think that's, with any, I think with anything like, being able to meet other people kind of on that same level, especially knowing how I used to be, I think is really important, because it makes sure that you have that connection, that you're both in that same place, in that same moment, without being separated.
It is very much about connection, and sometimes if you're with someone who either drunk or high, you're there, so it doesn't really mix very well. So you categorize yourself as spam, a reformed pig, which is as said, I'm gonna make a T-shirt of that. That's so funny. But you say you clean and sober for clear-headed for 4 years. What led up to that point where, okay, enough is enough? Yeah,
being around drugs, chemsex scene for a number of years, I'd say it started to go from kind of that recreational usage to more so, I'd say, kind of mid 2000s. So I'd say for probably at least kind of 12 years, 15 years, it just got more and more, and it was just my foot kept going harder on the gas, as it were.
Yeah.
And it eventually got to the point where, life, if I hadn't have done something, my, normal life would have started to fall apart. I have a career, I have a house, I have all of that external stuff, but more than anything, that internal feeling was just, no matter how much more I did, it didn't fill that void inside. Sex was meeting in front of a computer for most of it, certainly towards the end, especially when there was lots of things going on Zoom and other stuff. Which at the time was very exciting, but yeah, the actual physical sex was few and far between. And I think since getting sober, I've realised that actually I use drugs and everything to be able to kind of be that person that I wanted to be. It's difficult. Taking chems allowed me to kind of lose all those inhibitions. Yeah. And it's not that I'm not a sexual person, but yeah, I was trying to fulfill something that I just wasn't me. And I think the sex that I do have now is far more kind of fulfilling in that way. But everything just kind of was spiraling. I was using more and more. I was having episodes where afterwards it was creeping into my work life. It was everywhere. And it just got to the point where I was turning 40, and I was looking, I think as some of us do at that stage, thinking, do I want the next 20 years to be like the last 20 years? And I said no. And I didn't know what to do about it. I just didn't know. I didn't want that part of my life to continue the way it was, because it was just getting more out of control and more unmanageable.
So what steps did you take to like, okay, I need to make a change? What has been, you've been sober for 4 years, but how long before then did you start trying to, okay, now I need to make a change? Because we all have stumbles and relapses and apps and so on. It's not an easy thing to give up. How was that process for you?
So, yeah, I started accessing different kind of local drug services. They recommended me going to different kind of groups. Smart Recovery was I went to a few times. I would access other sort of support groups, and there was an app that I used to use, and I still use it today, and it shows all the times that I'd tried, and I'd get 30 days or I'd get 2 months, and I remember there was a couple of times it's like I get to 2 months. And then I was like, yay, I've got 2 months, I'll use. And there's a couple of times I know that there was a real almost conscious decision to do that. But yeah, that went on for probably, I'd say probably a good year, if not a bit longer. But it's like I just couldn't, I couldn't find a thing to give me a foothold for long enough that would allow me to start to kind of build that foundation. And then where I live, I accessed the local drug services here. And at the same time, I was speaking to someone who I used to use with online. And both my worker and my friend said, have you thought about going to NA? And I'm like, not that bad. And it's like, I know, but all the God stuff and all of that, and it was just like, I think it had been mentioned before, and I was a bit like, yeah, no, not for me. And then I just got to the point. It's like, yeah, let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? So yeah, so my recovery really is built around NA, Narcotics Anonymous, for anyone online, and that's where I started to build my recovery. And yeah, I went into the rooms on the 7th of October 2018, which is my clean date. So I haven't had the experience of a lot of other people in there. There's a lot of people in the rooms that have done very different substances to me. I haven't been to a rehab. I haven't gone through some of those things, but yeah, I can still identify with everyone in that room about the feelings and the thoughts and some of the experiences that we've had, that I've had, should I say. And it was a very daunting thing, and I still remember now, sat in my first meeting, being being the only gay there. No one had done the drugs that I'd done. No one I felt would get me, and it just allowed me to start to kind of just understand myself a lot more, and also start to work the steps. I appreciate it's not a thing that it's not something that everyone wants to be able to do or of interest to them, but. And for me, there's a lot of written work. I'm dyslexic. I hate doing it. I'm as I said, 4 years in, and I still haven't gone round the steps yet. So I'm on whatever it is. I think I've finished my step 7. But yeah, it's one of those things that there are so many sayings and sound bites and everything, and it's progress, not perfection. I'm doing the work, and it's working. I know I'm being very slow, but
no. That's perfectly. It's like whatever works for you, and it's not a copy and paste for everyone. That's the important thing here. A lot of people think you go into the rooms, you have to do it a certain way. There's no specific route.
Not at all. And I'm a firm believer that no matter where people find their recovery, whether it's religion, whether it's through yoga, whether it's through going to the gym or walking or whatever, as long as they are happy and they have their and they are in control of what they're doing, and then there are people out there that are like, especially around NA, and it's the only way to get clean and da 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 da. It's just like, this is about where we are as individuals to be able to find that inner peace, that thing that we didn't have when we were using, because it's very much for me. It's the things that's given me, that I always found it very how can I put it? It was very daunting because obviously the God word is used a lot around. Yeah. Around NA and AA for anyone that goes to NA, to AA or to either
or CMA, that matter doesn't.
And CMA, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always, I would say I'm a spiritual person. I've always believed that there is something out there, and not a person or a thing or something that anyone's written about, but just an energy. And NA's allowed me to kind of unlock that, and that's what's been really quite, I think, profound about for me in my recovery. That's, I don't do religion, as I think it says on my Facebook profile, or it did at one point. Religion is for sinners, because I don't do religion at all. But yeah, that higher power is something that's very personal.
It's for me. It's I think. We've had long discussions about recovery and my views and 12-step and stuff. I dip in and out. It's just, that's what works for me. I see myself as a spiritual person, but I also know, like, using the word God or higher power challenges me really badly. And it was one of the things that really surprised me when I went into recovery. It's like, oh, maybe I'm not as spiritual as I thought, because I'm just sitting and it's like, I shouldn't, but I sit and roll my eyes sometimes, like, God did this, God did that. But then again, sometimes it also comes down to, sometimes life doesn't give you more than you can handle if you are in the right place. Last Saturday or last Friday, I was not in a very good place, and my head noise was quite loud, and literally an email came in with an artist I follow on Spotify called Jessie, where she put out a song called Nobody Hates You. And it was literally about these internalized voices in your head. And I was like, I'm not a firm believer in some big entity that's looking out for me all the time, but that came at the right time. And it's hard to ignore that when that happens. So, like, again, life will not give you more than you can handle.
Very much so, and I think it's, it allows me to understand more about not only myself, but kind of how things work, and understand that the more I try to control situations, the more anxiety that I have, the more I kind of want something. When I get it, I'm not necessarily going to be able to enjoy it as much. So it's very much about being able to, trust in that, you know, that higher power. No matter what, everything will be all right.
Yeah.
You know, even when you know, at work we've just announced a whole load of redundancies, and it's like, you know, no matter. I'm not one of them, just so you know. But it's like, it's just like, you know, these things happen. They're not nice to deal with.
No.
But I know ultimately that I don't need to, you know, the old me would have gone, you know, something shit's happened, I'm gonna, you know, pick up and use. But that would be the same for anything. It's like, oh, I'm happy. Oh, great, it's Friday. You know, something really good happened. Or something, you know, it wouldn't matter. It was just an excuse. And actually, you know, now I know that no matter what happens, I don't need to use. And that's the great thing with it.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, like being happy, that can also be an excuse to use.
Yeah.
It's been said a couple of times when I've been in meetings. It's like, if you're sad, go to a meeting. If you're happy, run to a meeting.
Yeah.
Which is very sound advice, to be honest, because Friday comes around and you're like, oh, I need a treat and stuff like that. I think my only like Achilles heel at the moment is sugar. Just ask my dentist.
Yeah.
But it is also something I can work on. It's better than hitting up crystal meth and all of these other drugs.
It is, because, you know, and I still, you know, I still act out on things now. You know, I can't, if I do go to the shop because I want some chocolate or something, I always leave with 2 bars. I can't just go and buy one. And it was the same when I used to ring my dealer. It was never just one.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm still aware that there's things like that. Okay, yeah, chocolate isn't going to, you know, ruin my life. Excuse me. But, you know, it is, I have an awareness about those things now, and how I actually kind of act around those. And that can be, it's quite an eye-opening experience. You know, being able to kind of work through, for me, work through the steps, you know, allows me to be able to look at my past, look at who I am now, look at dealing with some of the carnage that I caused, and look at the person that I want to be in the future. And it's, you know, it is a process. It's a never-ending process. And I think that's sometimes the thing that people can be quite overwhelmed by. That, you know, to think I'm never going to use. I can't say I'm never going to use again. But I can say that actually, just for today, I'm not going to use. And just living in the day, I've been able to put whatever it is, 1,500 and some odd days together. And you know, and that's just how not only I've lived my recovery, but how I've lived my life. And you know, every Friday comes around, and I'm like, Jesus, how is it Friday again? You know, it just seems to, it just happens, and I have a productive week, and it all goes really well, and you know, and I don't tend to have those dramas like I used to have. There's certainly a lot less. I'm not going to say don't have them at all, but yeah, there is. You know, for me, it is very much. It teaches. Not, I didn't know how to live before, but how I lived was not necessarily very manageable. Even when I wasn't using drugs, but actually, what it allows me to do now is you know, manage all areas of my life.
Yeah, it's it is quite like eye-opening when you actually get less reactive and much more afterthought. It's like, oh, actually, should I do this? Should I not do that? Because in addiction, you are a reactive person. You react to your surroundings. You don't think of the consequences, where in sobriety you get much greater capacity to fast forward about your actions.
Very much, and it is, and I think, yeah, you know, that really resonated with me, what you said there, that yeah, I was a very reactionary person, and and I would react to everything, you know, other people, things on Facebook or Instagram. You know, it wouldn't matter where it was, it would always get a reaction. Whereas now it's just like, it just flows over me. I don't have to, you know, be so explosive.
Yeah, I know from myself. I mentioned at the start of the live that yet again Instagram blocking my account. It started it happened last year with some passwords, which I reacted really heavy on. My anxiety exploded and so on, because it means a lot, this Instagram account, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think these 2 times, yes, it's been frustrating, and yes, there's been a little bit of anxiety, but I have also tried to go, it's just an Instagram account. Is it annoying? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit like they're witch hunting me at the moment. But it is about like stepping back. What is healthy? It's also one of the reasons I took 4 months off of doing this, because yes, it's just an hour where I sit with someone and talk, but it is a lot of work. There's a lot of promoting the episode, editing it afterwards. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into this.
Yeah, no, and it is, and it can take a lot from us. That it's not just the, you know, the hour or so when you're live. It is very much all the other work that goes into that as well. And you know,
this is not me complaining. This is me just pointing out to people. It's like, if anyone's like, "Oh, he's complaining about doing this," no, I'm not complaining. But I'm very aware of the kind of person I am, and sometimes I can get a bit addicted to Instagram, because, as we all know, when you have one addiction, it spreads into other things, and definitely Instagram is one of the things. Like when I get up in the morning, it's more or less the first thing I look at.
Yeah. No, it is, and yeah, there are multiple things that you can start to obsess about, and yeah, you know, social media. I've been trying to work on my social media a bit. It's slow progress, but you know, I'm aware at times. It's like, actually, is this helping me? Is this making me feel better? Is this making me feel bad? And it can be quite a. I don't put a lot of emphasis on it, but equally I don't put a lot of effort into it. I'm not, you know, yeah, it's not going to be anything big. I know that much, but it's just, yeah, it's one of those. It's social media, and then at the end of the day, it's not exactly I'm not going to make millions from it.
No, and then this is not why I do this either.
No,
I make no money off this. It's mainly just you can see with some of the comments coming in, and we have people who listen and get inspired, or get some afterthought from you or from what I say and whoever I bring on, and that is what makes this important. It's not for everyone, but it's for that one person that might be listening that goes, actually, I relate to you, Chris, and you made a difference. He may not be ready to stop, but you may have triggered something in his brain to make that first move.
And that's the thing. It's, you know, we discussed before I came on. It's like, you know, and which is why I joked about the spam thing. That, you know, my life now is so different because I'm not so focused on the sex and the drugs and everything else. If at all, it's like it's an if it happens. So I felt a bit of a fraud, I guess. And I know we had this conversation, but you know, in a former life, you know, you and I both, you know, moved in the same circles and all of that.
I can't quite remember what we've talked about either by text or online and so on. And I'm sure when we were both in it, it's been quite explicit. We that is where we know each other from. And we're in such a different place now. We probably interacted on Zoom, if I'm completely honest.
Quite probably. Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know on here, and I'm not trying to give people ideas and they should seek this out, but there is a big druggy community on the Zoom platform, which surprises a lot of people, especially in the start of lockdown, where everyone was going back on Zoom to do socials and so on. it took me 2 weeks to get the courage up to set that profile up again, because it felt so uncomfortable to me. It was so triggering.
I was so triggered because it's like everything suddenly went on Zoom. Obviously, work is a different platform, so that's all right. But yeah, having to go and use Zoom for all of my social interactions, for meetings, you know, I'm very active in, or certainly when everything went online, I was very active in my local area for all the NA meetings and getting those up and running. And it's like, well, this, you know, the last time I was using this platform, it was because I was using it to connect with other people using. And it was very much, you know, okay, this allows me to start a new chapter and kind of rewrite my my relationship with this piece of software, for want of a better term. And yeah, you know, now I don't think about it. It's like, oh, got to fire up Zoom. Yeah, great. So it really did allow me to work through that. And you know, after the first couple of meetings, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm fine. You know, but yeah, at first it was very strange, very strange.
I've had experiences like that. It's that thing with people, places, and things, which is so relevant. As I remember, first time I went to meet some friends near the Gay Men's Pond in Hampstead Heath, and last time I was there was a massive relapse, and I kind of got lost, and there's no phone signal on Hampstead Heath, so absolutely had a bloody meltdown from it. And that's why I felt very weird about Zoom, because it literally is a place where I used to go on to use. Someone is asking, so what do you do? Watch each other use? Yes, we did. That is the point. Or some people have like group sessions where it's just on chat, but it was literally just people using on cam in various ways. So yeah, there's this whole underground, and it's probably still there.
I think it's moved on from Zoom,
maybe
purely because I think they clamped down a lot. I don't know, you know, where it's gone to, but it will always, you know, they'll get kicked off another platform, and you know, something else will start. But you know, and as you say there, you know, it's part of, you know, my relationship. You know, I used to go out on the scene in Manchester a lot, and when I got clean, I pretty much stopped going out. Because one, I didn't want to be in that environment. Two, I'm normally in bed by 10 o'clock, so I'm just like, you know, took to bed. I'm like, too late.
Is it past your bedtime now? Am I keeping you up?
Oh no, well, yeah. I am actually going out after
and you'll be ready for bed.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I'd find all these excuses because I just wasn't ready to go out. And it's only my proper night out, as it were, since I got clean, was only I think it was like November last year. I went to the Eagle, and I had a great night, but it's knowing that actually I can do that if I really want to. But
yeah, you went to the Eagle with me in October for Leather Weekend.
And yes, yeah. And it allowed me just to go, actually, I can still do this even though I'm sober. It's like, I don't, you know, yes, it's a different experience. I went to a sober clubbing event, which was great because I think it was like 5 till 9 on a Saturday afternoon. It was wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's like,
by 10.
But I tell you what, it was like by about 8 o'clock, I'm like, oh, my knees are killing me. I was just dancing all afternoon. But it was great, and it's finding those things that actually still allows me to engage with those activities that I enjoy. You know, I always love going out dancing. But it's something that, you know, yes, you have to look a little bit harder for some of those events, but also it's about making sure that you're going out with people that, you know, understand kind of the situation. And I think in many ways it is, you know, we all go at our own pace, and it's just trying to find that. And sometimes we just need to get that solid foundation before we try and go back to doing the stuff we used to do. And that's also the same for me, especially around sex. You know, it's something that I've avoid isn't the right word, but I just still don't have that huge interest in it, as certainly as I did, obviously, when I was using. And but I'm good with that, and that's the thing, that it'll happen when it happens. But I'm not. Excuse me, sorry, I've got someone at the front door. Someone's going to ring the bell now, because I think it's Amazon. Anyway, but you can't stop these things. But the yeah, it is very much just taking it at your own pace, and I think that's kind of what's key.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about in your blurb that you've kind of moved away from the fetish and so on, but you still have a little bit of interest in around the fisting and stuff like that. How do you, like, I know with like finding fisting partners and so on, some people use drugs, and fine, you do that. I can't play with you if you do that.
Yeah.
But then of course there's also poppers and so on. A lot of people can't do fisting without poppers. How do you find navigating sex when it does happen? Yet again, it comes a little bit down to, I think in recovery you kind of realize it's better, like it's not quantity, it's quality.
Very much. And you know, for me, you know, I have a with the people that I do play with, and it's kind of few and far between now, but it's I'm finding for the people who are drinking, I'm finding for the people who are using poppers or whatever. I'm not going to do any of that. And does it affect how I play? Yeah, it does, but it doesn't reduce the experience. It sometimes it can make things a bit more challenging, but you know, that's just how sex is now. You know, and I think it's about kind of enjoying that experience. You know, for me, when I was using, sex would last 2-3 days. You know, through that kind of session. I know that's not going to happen now. And I you know, I've got far too many other things to be doing to waste a whole weekend, just, you know. But you know what I mean. It's just a different experience. It's a far more fulfilling experience. And again, it's about that connection. Because I think the drugs kind of almost tricked you sometimes, that you had this connection. You didn't have a connection with anyone. It was internal. The only connection you had was with yourself, and it just, you know, you were just in your own, you were in a bubble. You didn't have a connection in that way, you know. It's difficult. You know, my sex life is I was going to say complicated. It's not complicated. It's very dull. It's very, you know, it's very few and far between. As the most part, I'm generally not huge. I don't feel hugely sexual. I wouldn't say I have a high sex drive, but it's something I've kind of had to accept, that I'm not going to have sex like you know, are in porn and stuff that I watch. I'm not going to have the sex I used to have in those moments where you weren't sat on your phone scrolling away.
That's not sex. That's just scrolling on your phone.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean.
But time we spent doing that.
When we were using, that was sex. You know, for those apart from the, you know, if you condensed down the actual sex you had when you were using, you'd be done in about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's just different. You know, I would say I'm probably far more relationship driven now. You know, yeah, we'll see how that one works out. Still single, but it's one of those that, you know, for the 7 years that I have been single, I've been kind of working on myself. You know, I went through a bit of a messy, painful divorce. Then I got into recovery, and it's almost just like that time's never been right. And I've not tried to push anything, because that's just, you know, that's not going to work. I just have to remember that you know, something will happen when it happens, and I still have hope. I'm still hopeful.
Yeah. I definitely remember in early recovery, when it came to like relationships and sex and so on, there could be quite a lot of fear around it as well, because yet again, it's not porn star sex, it's not 3-4 days and so on. So you kind of like, you dipped your toe with going to the Eagle with meat and leather and so on, and you realize you can do this. Is it something you might want to explore more down the line, or do you feel like that's a done chapter?
No, I would like to explore it more. You know, I was away. I was in Gran Canaria, and you know, I spent several evenings in construction while I was out there, and I had a great time. And it's like, wow, you know, that was kind of the precursor to me going out in Manchester. And it was like, I had such a good time. But I think life has different priorities for me now.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That it used to be that the priority was, well, drugs, number one, having, you know, all weekend sessions, number two, using sex as an excuse to take drugs. And I just, you know, my priorities are very different. You know, I have a priority to myself, to where I live, to the job I do, to my family and my friends, and you know, I do. Oh, and all the holidays I go on, of course. But
yes, if you go to his profile after this, he's just booked another one.
I know.
Had to post about it, of course. For me, that hasn't been on holiday since 2021.
Yeah, I know. I think I actually, and this is, I try to go away once every 3 months, which just a week away, bit of sunshine. It makes me happy. I can, you know, and I know I work hard and do well, and it's just being able to enjoy some of that.
See, it's funny. We've met a couple of times whilst being in Gran Canaria.
Yes.
And just
We've
met up
seen each other more in Gran Canaria than we have over here.
Probably, yes. And I remember first time I met up with you. This must be a couple of years back. And you were like, "Oh, let's meet up for a drink. Blah, blah, blah. We'll meet at this cafe down near the lighthouse." And must admit, and this is what my brain does. It's like, we're meeting somewhere that's not gay. Why are we doing that? What's the point of that? And we actually just have to sit and actually have a proper conversation. And this is like, I'm in recovery, and that's not so important. But in my brain, I had a very hard time understanding going on holiday that didn't involve gay people. Because that is what I'm used to. I go to Berlin for gay people. I go to Gran Canaria for gay people. Yeah. But you enjoy going to a holiday where you can lie around a pool for a week, and that's fine. And I think that's great. I'm still trying to get my head around doing that myself, because I'm so indoctrinated into something has to happen with other gay people whilst I'm on holiday. But I thought that was quite, I wouldn't say mind-blowing, but it was something I had to get my head around at the time.
I think I have, I don't want to say stepped away from the gay scene, but I think because I lived it so much, it's like if I was going out in Manchester or you know, it was the village, and we were always out. It was always around there. Or if I go out in London, it's always, you know, down to Soho or whichever of one. And there's so much more to see. There's so many other better places to go and eat, or you know, not that there's anything wrong with gay venues for that, but there's so many other places. And I guess I feel like I've kind of missed out on some of that. That, you know, if I go and you know, I was in Copenhagen for just after New Year, and I didn't go knowingly in one gay venue, and I don't feel like I have to, if that makes sense. I feel like I have not regressed or gone back in the closet or anything, but there's.
It's not the main focus point.
Not at all. Not at all. You know, I want to be able to just experience other things, and dare I say, it may also be part of me growing up that, you know, life isn't just this big party where you've got to go out, you know, to pubs and bars and clubs and whatever, or just be, you know, just be gay. Don't get me wrong. you know, going to Gran Canaria and going out around the bars and all the rest of it and around the Yumba, yeah, it's fun. And, you know, just people watching
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
you know, seeing the eye candy and stuff. It is fun. But again, when I bring it back to kind of where I am today, you know, I live in a very suburban area with all the families around me and everything else. And it is, you know, I never ever thought I'd end up living in a place like this, because it would just be like, no, 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 no. But actually, I love the peace and quiet. I love my garden. You know, it just gives me everything that I want. Whereas, yeah, you know, going back, you know, 10 years ago, I had to be in the center of the city. I had to have an apartment. It was, you know, it was always like that. And I just think that, yeah, Mum, if you're listening, I really hope you're not. But yeah, I'm just getting old. No, she doesn't do Instagram, thank God. But yeah, I'm just getting
I'll
old.
send her the YouTube link after.
No, 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 no,
Look at what your son is talking about: sex and fetish and all these disgusting, disgusting things.
I know.
So
He knows
in
I'm
Manchester, you're quite involved with the gay sober socials. You
Yes.
want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the Sober Gay Socials was set up by a guy called Stephen Wilkinson, who he wanted somewhere that would allow, you know, him to be able to socialize with other sober gay people from LGBTQ community. And there really wasn't anything. There was a few kind of things that popped up and you know, came and went, but he wanted something that was kind of in the village that you know, he can socialize with. And he just started doing kind of Sunday lunches. We now do a which is actually on tonight for anyone in Manchester. We do a night in Bar Pop in the VIP lounge upstairs, and it's just somewhere where you can get together with people who are sober, socialise, and you know, we do a few games and stuff, and we actually have a drag act, not on tonight unfortunately, but that does come and support some of the other events. And I've become a really active part of that, because for me it is, you know, what again, going back to my recovery and the program I work, it's also about kind of giving back. It's being of service to other people,
Yeah.
And actually being able to support the a lot of people don't realize that there are groups like this in certainly around Manchester. We did Manchester Pride, and we had a stall, and everyone was like, oh, this is such a great idea, you know, and it just allowed people to be able to kind of come together and make friends, because there's nothing worse than when you are especially, you know, when I was getting clean and sober, it's like, what, who do I go, where do I go, who do I go and see? You know, I don't want to go back to any of those other places that I used to go to, because I'll just end up, you know, relapsing or whatever. And it's trying to find somewhere that allows me to be able to do that. So I've got involved with that, and it's, you know, again, it takes up time, but it's just a great way to be able to meet people. And you know, through Stephen, I've met a very good friend there now. We just kind of hit it off straight away. We're just, you know, yeah, it's just, there's just a lot of banter, a lot of gay banter, and it's fun. You know, it brings people together, and it creates that safe space for people to be able to come and enjoy the village, and enjoy gay spaces.
Yeah, it's when I did Manchester Leather Weekend last October, I did a little, we met up for lunch for pizza, and it was just like, come in your gear, you don't have to be sober, just don't drink at this event. And I think we were like 10, 15 people. So sometimes it's just to have a break from the drinking, which is fine. I have no issue. Just don't show up drunk, of course.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, especially when I became sober. You realize how many alcohol commercials there are around Christmas and stuff like that. I don't categorize myself as an alcoholic, but it is quite a lot. And you realize British culture of hanging out is at the pub. And there's so many pubs you walk into, they either don't have a very good selection of non-alcoholic alternatives, or you get a bit of an attitude if you ask for a non-alcoholic beer. I've definitely had that in the past.
And this is something again that the Sober Gay Socials wanted to try and developed within the bars around Manchester that actually if you offer a good alcohol-free alternative, then people will buy it. You know, you've got a group here of people who will buy it. And we've worked with Liars who have, they have and I'm not going, well, I am going to do the pitch now.
Do pitch. If you can promote any like non-alcoholic
so
please pitch
Liars do a range of non-alcoholic spirits. They do an amazing gin. If you want to try that, I bought a couple of bottles of prosecco for Christmas because again, I want to feel like I'm having something. I know for some people it's too kind of tempting, but there's you know, there's options out there that you can find, and you start to see it a lot more now in supermarkets. They have an alcohol-free section, but it's about, especially the bars, that you know they want to make money out of the drinks they sell. So actually, at least provide those people with an alternative, because you know after 2 or 3 Cokes, it's like, yeah, I've had enough. I'm just going to go home. Whereas if you can keep offering them an alternative, they're going to stay longer and they're going to drink more. So you know, it's great to be able to have an input within there to be able to really show how you know what can be done. And I think things are changing. And again, you know, there's space for all of us here, for people who do drink and the people that don't. And it's like, just you know, give us an opportunity to at least have you know some of that and be able to you know to buy alcohol-free alternatives. So you know, it's great to be able to do that.
It is, you are seeing it more and more, and people are craving an alternative to heavy drinking and going out and so on. You definitely see, I definitely see it in the younger generation as well. They're not necessarily completely off alcohol, but it's just like, I don't need to be plastered to go out.
Yeah.
But as you said as well, I think it's also, I definitely see from myself, it's like I'm just gotten a bit older as well, so that also has an effect when you become sober. It's like, oh, your priorities shift.
I got to that age where it's like I won't regale the tale, but you know, I got myself into very embarrassing situations, all through drink, because I was never a big drinker, but I would, towards the end, I would drink to get drunk, and it was just not pretty. It wasn't pretty on the night. It was even less pretty the day after. The hangovers were just getting worse. You know, you mix into that. It was also, I was drinking. You know, I was drinking a bottle of wine a night, which you know, I'd come in from work again. It's like, I've had a busy day. I'll have a bottle of wine. I've had a great day. I'll have a bottle of wine. You know, it was that something to reach for to change how I felt, and that's. You know, in some way, and I've never had a problem with drink, but that ability to change my feelings has been, you know, that's been quite a difficult thing to work with, to find a way of coping in a different way.
Yeah, it's very important that you just kind of find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you afterwards.
Yeah.
Did we cover everything? I think we have covered everything. So. Is there any, if anyone's listened to this and they've kind of like picked up on something you've said and they either want to interact with you, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Cub7, CUBSEVEN. I'm on, it's probably the best place to get me on there. Send me a message. I'm more than happy to chat and talk about anything recovery related. If you're interested in the Sober Gay socials, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. As I say, we've got the event happening this evening to be able to in Manchester at Bar Pop. You know, reach out to me. More than happy, as I say, to be able to talk about anything recovery related or anything that you found of interest this evening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute joy to talk about your story, where you're at in life.
I've loved it.
All the traveling you're doing. But yeah, it's been absolutely lovely to have you on and have a chat and find out where you're at.
Brilliant, Ralph. No, thank you so much.
It's been great. Thank you very much. See you soon. And that was Cub7 Chris on the live. I'll be back next week on Saturday. It's been absolutely lovely to have him on and talk through being spam. T-shirts will be coming. Yeah, it's been absolutely lovely. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, play clear-headed, have fun. And if anything has affected you whilst we were chatting, drop me a message as well. My DMs are always open. So have a great night. Bye.